just a new home. But when their daughter began speaking to a girl no one else could see, they uncovered a chilling secret that had been waiting for them. The house looked perfect, a two-story brick home on the outskirts of a quiet suburban town in Pennsylvania, with wide windows that let in the sunlight and a backyard that stretched out to a line of trees. It was bigger than anything David and Claire Parker could have ever afforded in the city. But the real reason they signed the lease so quickly was for their 6-year-old daughter, Ella. After years of cramped apartments, this house promised open space, fresh air, and the kind of childhood they wanted for her. From the first day, though, Ella hated the house. "I don't want to sleep in my room," she whispered on the very first night. "Sweetheart, it's just because everything's new," Claire said, tucking her into bed. "You'll get used to it." But Ella didn't get used to it. The third night, she woke up screaming. Claire rushed in, expecting to find a nightmare or a fever. Instead, she found Ella curled up in the corner of the room, shaking, pointing at the far wall. "She was there," Ella said. "Who was?" "The girl with the black hair. She was just standing there." Claire tried to laugh it off. "Kids imagine things. It's what they do." But Ella didn't stop talking about the girl. Over the next week, the stories grew stranger. "She comes out of the wall," Ella said one morning. "She wants to play, but she's angry at me. She says this is her house." David, who didn't believe in anything supernatural, decided to prove it was just Ella's imagination. That night, he set up a baby monitor in her room, just to show Ella there was nothing there. What they saw made them both go cold. Around 3:12 a.m., the camera picked up movement. At first, it looked like a shadow, a trick of the light. But then it formed the outline of a girl, tall, thin, with long black hair, standing just at the edge of Ella's bed. The next morning, David quietly removed the monitor. David tried to convince himself it was just a glitch, bad camera quality, some artifact of poor lighting. But deep down, he couldn't shake the image of that dark figure watching his daughter sleep. Over the next few nights, Ella's condition got worse. She stopped eating properly and refused to be left alone, even during the day. Sometimes, they would find her sitting under the dining table, whispering to someone they couldn't see. One night, Claire woke up to the sound of soft giggling coming from Ella's room. She assumed her daughter had woken up early to play, but when she peeked in, the sight froze her blood. Ella was sitting on the floor, facing the corner and laughing, as if someone was sitting there with her. "Who are you talking to, baby?" Claire asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Ella turned her head slowly, her face pale in the moonlight. "She doesn't like you, Mommy," she said. "She says you should leave her house." The next day, David and Claire started noticing strange things themselves. Doors would creak open on their own. Cold drafts swept through the rooms even when all windows were shut. And in the upstairs hallway, Claire swore she heard footsteps in the middle of the day when Ella was at school and David was at work. Then, a particularly horrifying incident happened. Claire had just finished bathing Ella when she noticed deep scratches on her back. Thin, angry red lines that looked like they'd been carved by nails. "Ella, did you scratch yourself?" she asked, panicked. Ella just shook her head. "She did it," she whispered. "The girl with the black hair. She said I'm bad." That night, David sat up late researching the house. The lease agreement had been cheap, suspiciously cheap, but neither of them had thought much of it before. Now, he needed answers. He found old newspaper articles mentioning a family that had lived there 30 years ago. One article caught his attention. "Tragedy strikes local home. Child found dead in mysterious circumstances." The photo was grainy, but the little girl's long black hair was unmistakable. David realized with a chill that Ella's imaginary friend might not be imaginary at all. David didn't sleep that night. He dug deeper into the article, then searched the local archives for more information. Slowly, a horrifying pattern began to emerge. The girl in the article, her name was Annabelle Grant, had died in the house in 1991. It was ruled an accident. She'd fallen from the staircase and broken her neck. But what caught David's attention was a single sentence buried deep in the article. Neighbors reported strange behavior in the weeks leading up to the incident, including reports of screaming, objects flying across rooms, and voices heard through walls. Claire was skeptical. "David, this could be confirmation bias. We're scared. So everything seems connected." But David showed her Ella's drawings. Dozens of crayon sketches of a girl with long black hair and hollow eyes. In every single picture, the girl stood next to Ella, and behind her, always in the background, was the house. The breaking point came 3 days later. Claire woke up to the sound of crashing. She ran into Ella's room and found the window shattered from the inside. Ella was standing on her bed, arms outstretched like she was about to jump. "She said I could fly," Ella said calmly. "She said I'd be free." They rushed her to the hospital, but physically she was unharmed. Mentally, though, she was slipping further away. The family finally turned to something they never thought they'd consider: an exorcist. The man they brought in was old and quiet, Father Whitaker. He listened carefully, watched Ella sleep for an hour, and then finally spoke. She is not possessed, he said. But the house is. And your daughter is caught in between. This entity is not just haunting. It's attached. And it's growing stronger through her. David asked what they should do. You need to confront the house, he said. You need to know what happened here. Because until the truth is brought to light, your daughter will never be safe. The Parkers decided to dig up everything they could. The landlord was no help, brushing off their questions. But an old neighbor, Mrs. Rollins, who had lived next door for 40 years, remembered everything. She's still in that house, you know, she said. Annabelle. She never left. And I don't think she's alone. Mrs. Rollins invited David and Claire into her cluttered living room and poured them both tea with trembling hands. I warned the last family, she said quietly. But they didn't listen. They left in the middle of the night after their little boy nearly drowned in the bathtub. Said someone was holding him down. Claire's face went pale. Did something happen here? Something that could explain Annabelle? Mrs. Rollins sighed. Annabelle's death was no accident. Her parents were strange. The mother, Margaret, was obsessed with spiritualism. They held seances in that house. People in town said she dabbled in dark things, trying to contact the dead. There were rumors that Annabelle would talk to shadows, things no one else could see. David leaned forward. Are you saying she summoned something? I'm saying the girl's spirit never left, Mrs. Rollins said. And that house, it feeds on children. It wants them. Those words rattled in their minds as they returned home. That night, things escalated beyond anything they'd seen before. It started with the lights. They flickered, then went out entirely. The air grew heavy, freezing cold, as if someone had opened a door to the winter outside. From Ella's room came the sound of a child humming. A soft, eerie melody that wasn't Ella's voice. When they rushed in, Ella wasn't in bed. She was standing in the middle of the room, her head tilted unnaturally, eyes staring at the corner. She's here, Ella whispered. She says I'm hers now. David lunged forward to grab his daughter, but before he could reach her, the bedroom door slammed shut, locking them in darkness. Something invisible swept across the room, knocking over a lamp, pulling at Claire's hair, scratching deep lines into the wooden floor. Claire clutched Ella, praying under her breath. Then, just as suddenly as it started, everything stopped. When they turned on a flashlight, Ella's arms were covered in small handprints. Too small to be David's or Claire's, yet too defined to be anything else. David knew then, this wasn't something they could handle alone. The next morning, David called Father Whitaker again. We're not waiting anymore. Do whatever you need to do. We're leaving this house if it kills me. Father Whitaker arrived before sunset with 2 assistants. They carried old wooden boxes filled with candles, crosses, and a Bible that looked centuries old. As he stepped inside, the atmosphere seemed to thicken, and even Whitaker paused. This place, it's worse than I thought, he murmured. The ritual began in Ella's room. Whitaker lit the candles and began chanting in a low voice, the assistants sprinkling holy water along the walls. Ella sat in the corner, her knees pulled to her chest, muttering something over and over. Claire knelt beside her. Baby, what are you saying? Ella looked up, and for a split second, her voice sounded nothing like hers. She's not leaving. This is her house. And she wants me. The lights began to flicker violently. A deep, guttural sound, like a growl, filled the air. Then the walls began to shake. The closet door burst open, and for a moment, David swore he saw the shadow of a little girl standing there, her long black hair moving as if underwater. Whitaker's voice grew louder, his chant turning almost into a yell. You are not welcome here. Leave this child. Suddenly, Ella screamed. A high-pitched, blood-curdling sound that silenced the room. The candle flames shot up like torches, and something heavy crashed downstairs. Claire held Ella tightly as she trembled, her tiny hands gripping her mother's arms. Then, just as quickly as it began, the noise stopped. Ella collapsed in her mother's arms, unconscious but breathing. Whitaker wiped sweat from his forehead. It's not gone. Not yet. But we've weakened it. To break this completely, we need to uncover what keeps it here. What binds Annabelle's spirit to this house. That night, David and Claire searched every corner of the house. In the attic, behind a false wall, David found an old wooden trunk. Inside were Annabelle's belongings. Small dresses, a broken doll, and a faded photograph of her with her parents. Tucked beneath the clothes was a diary. The final entries chilled David to his core. Mommy says the voice in the walls is our friend. She says I have to play with it. But I don't like it. I'm scared. It wants me to stay forever. It says I can't leave. I told Daddy I want to leave. Mommy got angry. The voice is angry too. I think I'm going to sleep soon. David felt sick. Annabelle hadn't just died. She'd been trapped, maybe even sacrificed, in this house by her own family. Whitaker read the diary and nodded grimly. We can free her now. The final ritual was performed in the attic. Whitaker placed Annabelle's belongings in a circle of salt, sprinkling holy water and burning sage as he recited prayers. The house groaned and shuddered as though alive. Then came the voice, a soft, broken whisper. Don't take me. Ella, who was clutching Claire's hand, suddenly looked around as if seeing something they couldn't. She's crying, she said softly. She says she wants to go home. Whitaker's chants grew louder, and with a final crash, as if something invisible had shattered, the attic fell silent. From that night onward, the house was still. No more cold drafts, no more whispers. Ella slowly returned to her cheerful self, though she sometimes asked, "Do you think Annabelle is happy now?" David and Claire moved out a week later, leaving the house behind. But on their last night, as Claire packed the final box, she noticed something carved into the wall of Ella's room. "Thank you for letting me go."